welcome everybody to another edition of On the Trail in Search of Living Legends. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fountain. This is going to be Season 5, Episode 2. I've got my awesome, beloved co-host, Mr. Nick Valente, with me, as usual. Nick, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great, Jeremiah. How about you?
Good. Can't complain. Thanksgiving go well?
Oh, yeah. Thanksgiving was great. I just couldn't wait to Sunday to come around so I can co-host with you again and get deep.
Absolutely. And we've got another great guest tonight. Awesome guest, as a matter of fact. We have cryptozoologist, author, and the founder of North American Dogman, director of the North American Dogman Project, Region 2, Mr. D.A. Roberts. D.A., how's it going? Thanks for coming on.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I remember we had John there a couple of years ago, but we had some tech issues, and we come to find out after the show we didn't record, so I think we'll do a little bit better tonight. So it's good to have you back, man. Good to have you back.
Thank you.
Yeah, our pleasure. I guess what we can start out with is, can you give the listeners out there a little bit of a bio on yourself, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Like when you started out and how you started out.
Right.
I'm born and raised in the Missouri Ozarks. I heard about the Patterson-Gimlin footage when I was really young. This would have been mid-1970s, and it got really piqued my interest. Of course, and I, watched all the old Leonard Nimoy in search ofs and talked my mom into buying me those Time Life books that had like the Loch Ness Monster and stuff in it. So I had a pretty big fascination from a very young age. But it wasn't until, I would go up and ask relatives, have you seen Bigfoot? And of course, they all thought I was nuts. But it wasn't until my Uncle Buddy, who his actual name was James, but everybody called him Buddy. He married my mother's sister, my Aunt Violet. He was married into the family, but he was my Uncle Buddy. He was full-blood Cherokee. And I had asked him about it, and he waited till we alone and said, yes, they're real. I've seen them, and I've seen them on this property. And he had 160 acres out in the middle of nowhere, up against about 5,000 acres of conservation land, way out in the sticks, out past Eldridge, Missouri. And if you've ever been to Eldridge, Missouri, it's not exactly a town as most people think of it. It's a couple of city limit signs and a post office, and that's about it.
Nice. Jeez.
And when I say he lived in the middle of nowhere, he lived in the middle of nowhere. And I had a couple of experiences on his land when I was in my mid-teens. Had what I believe to be a Bigfoot approach the back of my deer stand. Wow. Nothing else it could have been. It was on two legs.
Right.
And I asked my uncle about it, and he said, yeah, that's probably what came up behind you. And then a year later, I shot a 12-point buck on the same property, but in a different area. And there was part of his property that he said, never go to, just stay out of there. It's a bad area. Don't go in there. And I tracked that buck there, and it went down into a ravine. And by the time I got down back into the ravine where I could climb down and got down there, it was gone, but I could see where it had bled completely out. But there wasn't another drop of blood, nothing. And when I started looking for the deer, I couldn't find anything. So I called my uncle on the radio. We carried these old 2-way Motorola's. And I told him, I said, hey, somebody out here took my deer. And he said, where are you at? And I told him, he's like, that's where you're not supposed to be. I said, well, I was tracking a buck I shot. That's where he went. And he said, well, there's no person out there. Nobody took your deer. Get out of there before the deer's not the only thing that goes missing. And I came back up to the house, and he explained to me, he goes, that's the area of land we stay out of. And I guarantee you, I know what took your deer, and it wasn't a person. And wow. From then on, I was just absolutely enthralled.
So he grabbed the 12-pointer, huh?
Mm-hmm. I was a good sized country kid at the time, and there's no way I could have carried that deer. There was no way it was a bear, because black bear hadn't been reintroduced into Missouri until somewhere around the year 2000. There have been a wolf sighting in Missouri in 120 years. Coyotes would have destroyed the kill. It would have been all over the place. Plus, I was only gone about 10 to 15 minutes, so it's not like they had time to eat it. It was gone without a trace. And if a mountain lion had dragged it off, there would have been drag marks. It would have been too big for it to, it's not like a mountain lion could throw it over its shoulder and carry it off. It was just gone. No blood drops, no nothing, gone.
And a buck that size, I don't think anyone realizes how heavy that would be for even you were a young kid.
I was about 16 at the time.
Yeah,
I would have had to have tied a rope around its legs and dragged it out.
Yeah, right, exactly. And as far as carrying it, even a strong man can't really throw a big buck like that on his shoulder and walk out with it. I mean, let's be realistic.
I might have been able to do it for a short distance, but not
Short distance, sure,
not-
yeah. But get
I
all
was
the
a
way
pretty
out.
good sized country kid. I, grew up bucking hay and hauling wood and everything, everything under the sun. So I was a pretty stout kid, and even I couldn't have carried it far.
Right, right. Do you, back to the one that approached the back tree stand. Did you get a good look at it?
Didn't get to see it at all. I was in a deer stand on a tree that was big enough that I couldn't lean out and look around. And I hear something approaching the deer stand from behind me. I can hear bipedal crunch, heavy
Right.
steps.
Mhm.
And as it was getting closer, I said, "Hey, who's back there?" And then it stopped. And it kind of did this. It made a real deep intake of breath. It goes, "Ooh," and just turned and walked away. And by the time I scrambled down out of the deer stand, it was gone.
What do you think, a Dogman or a Sasquatch?
Oh, I definitely think it was a Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My uncle was familiar with Dogman. Of course, the Cherokee called them the Olonga Doglala. So he was
Okay.
familiar with them, but he'd never seen one on his land.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to let the audience know that DA has written, God, how many are you up to by now? 30?
I got 27 out. Right now.
27,
Wow.
27 books, based on actually your research. And I've always called you, DA, the Tom Clancy of cryptozoology, because you just do some heavy duty research. I don't mean just with books and going places to find out. I mean, you actually go to the areas you write about.
Absolutely.
And you help us, the readers, dive right into the story. And it always makes me feel like I'm right there. And
Sure.
I just want to tell people, and this is, I'm not sucking up to him either. I mean, he's a good friend of mine, but I'm going to tell you, before I really knew him as well as I do now, I was never into zombie fiction. And I read his first book and I was just caught. That was it. And there's 10 books into that series. Is that correct? I mean, all 10. And I was actually sad when I was reading the last one. I mean, it just, it was something to look forward to every day. And one of my really super admins in Region 3, Duffy, I think she read them in 5 days.
Wow.
10 books in 5 days. I mean, she was like dedicated, but she'll sit there on her chair and bang out them books left and right. I mean,
Wish I could write them that fast.
yeah, I know your
Yeah.
last wild hunt, it's still going, right?
Yeah, I'm almost 55,000 words into it. I'm going to try to wrap it up in the next week or so, if possible.
And something else I want to let the audience know is that DA's got his sources, and somehow The Wild Hunt is one of his books. Somehow he puts into those books things that the military actually use. And I think he knows what I'm talking about, that housing unit. I think you call it the Mimic.
I call them the mimic units.
Yeah, the Mimic units. These things are actually real. And somehow, some way it got out and he found out and he puts them in there. And it's like, we're talking about real stuff that when he writes a book, even though it's supposed to be, fictional, you are getting some solid information out of it and some great entertainment. It's just, I mean, is that how you always did it? You always went out there and researched your areas?
Oh, absolutely. One of the earliest authors I remember reading as a young kid, because my mother was a big fan of Louis L'Amour. So when I graduated from like kids' books into adult books, Louis L'Amour was one of the first book series I started reading. And Louis L'Amour, that was his claim to fame. If he was going to write a book about an area, he went to it and walked the area, because you can look an area up on Google Maps, but it's not going to tell you how the area smells or how the ground feels beneath your feet or how the water tastes in that area. So I like to, as much as I can, go to the areas that I write about. Before we did the book, I did the book that was set in LBL. Nick and I spent almost a week there.
Yeah.
And I had my second sighting.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Quick, I had my second, and DA got a nice solid glimpse while we're out there. And
I think I got between 10 and 15 seconds just straight on look at it before it took off.
Unfriggin' believable. Unreal.
DA, I know, Nick, you've described it a little bit, but seeing you got different views, DA, can you describe that a little bit for our listeners?
Yeah, we were coming back from an area called Demumbers Bay, and there's a lot of activity in that area. In fact, before
Okay.
Nick got there, the first night I was there, I went down to Demumbers Bay in the dark by myself and was playing predator calls. I was playing Wounded Rabbit, Distressed Rabbit,
Yeah.
and you could hear it echoing out over the water because I was standing in the woods right next to the bay, and I heard something approaching me in the dark, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm out here with no cell reception. Nobody knows where I'm at. I'm by myself. This is probably not the best place for me to be. So I backed out of there and got back in the van and took off, but something was coming. And but I never saw it. I never got to see it. But then the last day we were there, Nick and I were coming back from that same spot to Mumbers Bay. And about a half mile up the road from the bay itself, from the camping area, is a little concrete bridge that goes over this little slough. And we were maybe 100 yards past that little concrete bridge, heading back toward the trace. And I was looking out the window, and I had my cell phone in my hand, just like this, with the camera app up, waiting to see. If I was hoping I saw something I could get recorded. But I looked, and as I was panning my head, I kind of saw this figure with its hand. It was its right hand leaning against a tree, but it didn't really register until I was starting to look away, and it turned its head to look at me. And when I saw that movement, then I was like slapping Nick in the shoulder. I'm like, hey. So Nick hits the brakes, and I point, and the phone was completely forgotten, completely. And once it realized we were stopping and we saw it, it turned and headed for this ravine, and it didn't like just do a straight run. It kind of did this weird loping bound, like side, then down the ravine. And of course, Nick and I got out, and Nick went trucking after it. And we're like, hey, wait a minute, neither one of us are armed, and that thing's going down that ravine like a freight train. Probably not a good idea for us to try to follow it, because neither of us had any rappelling equipment, and it would have been a hell of a climb to get out of there.
Sure.
So
It was frustrating. All those
we
days.
went back to the spot where it was at, and there were no marks on the tree, but from where I saw its hand, we estimated what was it, Nick, about 6.5 to 7 feet tall, because it was bigger than me, but not like
Close to
huge.
7 feet tall. Yeah.
It was completely black, had no other markings on it, completely black. I didn't really see the eyes because it was backlit, kind of silhouetted. But as it turned its head, you could tell that it was like wolf-like, but the snout was shorter and blunter.
Okay.
It wasn't like coming to a narrow snout like a wolf. It was shorter and wider, kind of like a mastiff.
When I got
but the head was shaped more like a wolf.
A Type 3 variant 1.
And it was stupid fast.
This one here. That's what it looked like. As opposed to the other ones with the longer snouts.
Right.
It was fast.
I mean, I don't know what we were thinking. I guess we were kind of frustrated because we were there at nighttime, and we were there and this was during the daytime. It was the last day there, and thank God something happened.
About 10:30 in the morning. But the funny thing is I had the camera app up on my phone, and it never even entered my brain to try to get pictures. See, it wasn't until it was long gone. I'm like, hey, I should have been recording this.
That's what happens. I mean, you get excited.
It does.
You don't get scared, but you get excited that finally we've got you, and you're like, oh, I should have put my camera on.
Yep.
You know, people always say, why didn't you take pictures, or why didn't you get photographic evidence? Well, it happens so fast, and when you see it, your mind just goes into this like, oh crap mode. And it was kind of like when I was a cop. I mean, when a critical incident happens, when something bad happens, time dilates, and things that you would normally think of go out the window as you're focused just on one specific task. So, I was trying to see it and get Nick's attention and get him and see as much detail as I could, and the phone just didn't even enter into my brain until it was long gone.
Didn't even register. Yeah.
We would have tried to get pictures of the tracks, but the leaf litter was so thick, all you could see was vague impressions where it had been.
Sure.
They don't have people there to clean up the leaves. They just stay there from year to year to year. And if we were to try to go down that sloping hill, we would have just probably tumbled down.
Some very thick woods.
That's what I've heard about it. Canopy's it's real dark, during the day even.
Yeah, there were some of the roads we were driving down that were like tunnels. The foliage was so thick over the top of the road, you were just basically driving through a tunnel.
And that adds to the mystique of that area, particular area too, I think, you know.
That definitely
Feeling.
does.
And to the feeling when you're out there too.
We're in the feeling, exactly.
You know, and
Yeah. That definitely always adds to it. You know, that movement you were talking about that it made when it took off.
Mhm.
That's the second time we've heard that in this show. In the last couple of weeks. Remember, Daryl mentioned the same thing, Nick, when he saw the one he saw.
A loping
Yep.
run or a loping walk.
Yep, loping walk. Yep.
It was really bizarre. I mean, it was just, it kind of, if you're looking dead on, it kind of bounded, and then it was down that ravine, like 3, maybe 4 steps, and it covered an area about 40 yards.
Wow.
It just, when it took off, it was like boom, 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 boom.
So you can imagine if something like that was aggressive towards you, it'd be on top of you in no time at all.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? You know, I mean,
yeah,
you have to go out there with the idea that you're prepared now every second. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, your attention.
Exactly.
On it.
now when I go into the woods, I never go unarmed. Never. It's not happening.
Mm.
No.
No,
people don't realize what's out there.
Now, plus another thing I've mentioned before, when we were out there in LBL at nighttime, as soon as I put the spotlight on, we got deluged by 1,000 million bugs.
God, the bugs were thick.
I mean, my God. I had this natural organic bug spray. It kind of worked, but I forgot to put it on. You know, I didn't put it on. I had to spray the interior of my Humvee because the bugs were all in there. And luckily the next morning they were all dead.
Well, I can tell you that stuff that Nick got works well.
It's really good. And I went back and I got some more because I said, never again. And if I ever go back there in August or July, you know, summer, that's it.
Yeah.
Next time I go back, I'm making sure I take military grade DEET.
Yeah.
That the thing is, the DEET and everything will get into your system and it can cause sickness, whereas this stuff is natural and organic and it really does work well. And it won't get you sick at least, but you'll smell
I've never had DEET make me sick.
No?
And I've used it a lot.
Yeah, I've never gotten sick from it either. No.
I saw a couple of guys get sick from it. That's why I thought.
But I've heard you can.
I guess it depends on who you are, and you know, if you everybody reacts differently.
Yeah.
I was just afraid of that stuff. If you put too much on, I would get sick. So I said, nah, I better find something good. And at least I did something good, and it worked. Hey, if it worked at LBL, it'll work any place.
Oh yeah, the bugs are thick there.
Oh God.
Oh.
Now, DA, Region 2, the NADP, what states does that comprise of?
It covers the Midwest.
Midwest?
Yeah, it covers the entire Midwest. Which oddly enough, if you look at the NADP site, the Midwest has the most reports of any region.
Yeah, there's a lot of dogman reports out of that area. It's crazy. Yeah, a lot. You ever had it aside from having that Sasquatch walk up on behind your tree stand? Have you ever up close to the Sasquatch?
Yeah, we had something approach us at a bonfire just back in September of this year. We didn't get a look at it, but it did a lot of the traditional, what people report Sasquatch doing. It paced our camp. It walked around us in the trees. It threw rocks at my wife and another lady.
Oh, okay.
We didn't hear any vocalizations, and it never got close enough we could get it on the cameras. But it paced around the camp pretty much for hours.
Right. It sounds like like you said, that's definitely that's Squatch behavior for sure.
And you know how I said before, he does research by going to the places.
Yes.
This one place in particular, Joe Bald Park, where he's had several of his books have some action taken part. You know, and Joe Bald, he went there with a friend of his, and I guess the wives came with you.
Yeah, they didn't get out of the van,
and they had. They didn't know it at the time, but they had a dogman encounter without them knowing it.
We caught it on camera and didn't know for about a year and a half.
Unbelievable that they didn't know it. And I guess the dogmen were just so taken back by the boldness of these two guys that They didn't do anything.
The Joe Bald Campground is a old Army Corps of Engineers campground down near Kimberly City, Missouri. And they shut it down somewhere around the year 2000, 1999, 2000, allegedly after a number of people went missing in and around the park. Every attempt to reopen that campground since then, the Army Corps of Engineers has flatly shut down. It's completely overgrown. If you can get back in there, but you can still see where the campsites were. There's still like concrete picnic tables and stuff like that, but it's completely overgrown. And it was one of the places I wanted to use as a setting for a book, specifically the book, The Lakeview Man. And my buddy Steve and our wives, we went down there to shoot a promo video for the book before it came out. And we were just going to shoot a short couple minute video and talk about the area and, show people around at Joe Bald at night. And, we didn't notice anything out of the untoward, nothing out of the way, out of the ordinary. And we shot our video. We got in the vehicles and we went into Branson, Missouri, and had dinner and had a good time. Well, the next night when I went to upload that video to YouTube, I noticed a lot of eye shine in the background. In fact, at one point you see eye shine behind me over my shoulder. But this is Missouri. The woods of Missouri, eye shine is not uncommon. So it didn't raise any red flags. So I upload the video, forget about it. Like a year and a half passes and I'm doing a show called The Nightmare Hunter. And we're discussing the book, The Lakeview Man. And I said, in fact, we shot a promo video down in one of the settings. I was like, hey, well, let's show the video. So we showed the video just as a promo for the book, Lakeview Man. And one of the guys in the audience, a guy named Thomas Whitney, he said, hey, something moved in that video. And I'm like, nah, I've watched that video 100 times. There's nothing moving. He goes, no, I'm telling you, when you're panning your flashlight, something leans out behind the tree over the bridge, that little concrete bridge, and then ducks back when you bring the flashlight back close to it. So I sent the video to a couple of guys I know that do video analysis, and it was just shot on a cell phone, so it wasn't great quality. They isolated the frames where the movement was. They said, yes, there is something moving. And they brought up the stills from the image and enhanced them. And you could, at one point, clearly in the video, you can see something about 9.5 feet off the ground, lean out from behind one of the trees, and its head's very, very dog-shaped. And you can, at one point, you can see one of its hands with claws on the side of the tree. And then when I start to come back with the camera, it just ducks back behind the tree. I showed the video to MK Davis, and MK's like, yeah, there's something definitely moving there, but I can't tell you what it is. The video is not clear enough to say definitively. Sent the video to Nick. In fact, this is how I got involved with the NADP. Nick said, you said what was the best type 3 dog man you'd ever seen?
Type 3, yeah.
And
wow. I blew it up, DA. I blew that up on a 65-inch screen, super high def screen. I used applications on my computer, apps to enhance it, and that's exactly what I saw. And if the people who are watching right now look behind you right now, they'll see behind you all the blinking lights, the eye shine. Well, that's about what he had when he was there, and it looked to be about 5 different sets of eyes, at least that I could count. But Whitney has some good eyesight to be able to pick it up from the beginning.
Yeah, he spotted it just on a grainy cell phone video.
Unbelievable.
Until Josh and Adam enhanced it, we never would have saw it.
So, Jay, if you understand what we're saying, is that while he was there, he had at least 5 dogmen probably in the back of him, watching him.
Yeah. I've actually, I don't know if I ever sent you the video. I've had that happen to me with Sasquatch. I was just I saw a set of eye shine. I started filming, and they started ducking every time the camera would hit their way. They ducked down into the brush. I think I've sent you that, but
I've had that one.
Similar situation, and it seems like as soon as they know that camera's hitting them, they get down or they go behind a tree or something.
It's funny. I hear that a lot with Sasquatch. Like they understand what a camera and a firearm is.
Absolutely.
They may not know exactly what it does, but they know it's know enough to know it's dangerous.
Absolutely, I agree with you, 100%. Yep. So I tell people, if you ever with a Sasquatch or a dog man, for that matter, don't ever point a weapon at one unless you intend to use it.
Well, NADP is a no-kill organization. We have no plans to kill one. Well. But the only way I will shoot one is in self-defense.
Same here. Yep.
Definitely not. I wouldn't do it.
I don't want to
unless
be
I
the
had
guy
to.
that brings one in. I've got no desire to be the guy that brings one in for science.
Me neither. Me
Now, I'd be
neither.
delighted to get really good, clear images, but
Sure.
as for wanting to shoot one, I have no desire to shoot either a Bigfoot or a Dogman.
If I
Absolutely
ever
not.
did, though, if I ever did have to do that in self-defense, I would definitely take a piece of it, get my axe out and chop a piece off or two, take a lot of hair, take photographs, and get to at least 3 different news outlets.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting some noise in the background here.
Hmm. I don't know.
I don't hear it now.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All went away.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
there it is. Nick, do you have your speakers going? Or are you using headphones?
No, I don't have headphones. We were okay before. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not speaking, so I'm just wondering. Yeah, it must be me.
I think your new mic may be pretty sensitive and might be picking up your speakers.
Yeah, the gain is pretty high right now. I better check. We'll pull down the gain.
So DA, you working any cases right now?
Well,
If
at the
you
moment,
can talk about.
We've got the sighting that we had up near Lexington, Missouri. My wife and my son and my stepson, we were all riding down a road from near the Missouri River up near the Grand River Horse Ranch, Big River Horse Ranch outside of Lexington. And we saw something emerge from a cornfield. It locked eyes. It made eye contact with us. It was on all fours, and it walked slowly across the road in front of us and disappeared into another cornfield. I estimated its back. It was on all fours. I estemated its back to be between 6 inches and a foot taller than the hood of my SUV. This thing on all fours probably, at the shoulder would have been around 4 feet, and I guessed it would probably weigh the ballpark 800 to 900 pounds. I believe it was a Dogman, but the eye shine from it was so bright from my bright headlights that all I could see of the head, and it was like laser focused on me. All I could see was like bright green eye shine that faded to white the farther out it got, and it completely obscured the head. But it moved like a big dog.
Like a big dog. Yeah. It's amazing how different. You said the eye shine was green for a moment. It's amazing on how all the colors we hear about, isn't it?
Well, like eye shine, which is known as tapetum lucidum, is affected in a large part by diet and region.
I didn't know that.
Two animals of the same species that eat different things will have different colored eye shine.
Okay. I was totally unaware of that. It's good to know. It's good to know. Good to know. Nick, can you say that, DA?
What's that?
I turned the gain down on this thing and it's still messing up. I don't know if it's me or not, but
Because I can't hear it. I can't hear it on my end.
I can hear it. It sounds. At first, I thought it sounded kind of like music, but it sounds more like almost an electrical short.
I covered the microphone. I can't win for losing.
There, I just turned my computer off in the background. I'm on my tablet. I had to I turned the computer off. Maybe it was making causing some interference or something.
No, I still hear it.
Huh. That's weird. See if he can.
I got a Yeti microphone here, and I was hoping it would help, but it's not.
Ooh, I just lost someone's picture.
Nick.
Yeah.
Well, Nick's got his mic muted, and it's still doing it.
Oh, that's weird. Let me try something. Can you still hear it?
No, I don't hear it at all now.
Okay. Maybe it had something to do with my headphones. I don't know.
Weird.
It's very weird. Very weird. So, anything else? Any other cases? Is there anything going on?
Oh, there's quite a bit
one,
going
or?
on in Missouri. there was a case of a missing hunter here not too long ago, just a few weeks ago, that was very suspicious. It was a guy that was an experienced hunter that hunted the same area for years, didn't show back up. So the next morning they went out with search and rescue. They couldn't find him. Went back out the following day and found him. They won't release the condition of the body. When the first day they were out there looking for him, they found a large quantity of blood and his weapon, but they didn't find any trace of him. And they said, well, it's probably just deer blood. Well, you can't say that. You've got to test that. And it takes a while to test it. They've never revealed what type of blood it was, why his weapon was laying there. And if he was an experienced hunter, he would have been fine. They said he died of exposure, but they won't release the condition of the body. And it didn't get cold enough that a guy who was wearing a coat or a jacket, at least for deer hunting, it didn't get cold enough that he should have, that exposure would have got him, not overnight.
They gave they gave you no idea of the condition of his clothing?
Nope, they would not say. They would not release that. And a couple weeks before that, well, here in Missouri, we had that Amazon driver made national news, was allegedly mauled to death by dogs. The deputies on scene entered the home and killed the 2 dogs that were in the yard. But they've never released the necropsy details on whether or not the dogs had human tissue. And a friend of a friend kind of thing, that's all I can say, knows the coroner in that county, and the coroner said he's never ever seen a body in that bad a condition. So you can't tell me 2 dogs did that. I know one of them was a mastiff, but mastiffs aren't that aggressive. I've owned several.
No.
So whatever tore this Amazon driver up, it ripped him to shreds. And there was a significant amount of tissue missing, and they've never released whether or not the dogs had tissue in their stomachs. To me, they tried to shut that down so fast, and then knowing what the coroner said about the condition of the body, those are not far from each other. Both along the Missouri River corridor. And we get a lot of dogman activity along the Missouri River, especially up near Hannibal, Missouri. They refer to it as the Hound of Hannibal. So there's a lot of dogman sightings, and especially in and around the St. Louis area. A lot of people are seeing dogman a lot along the Missouri River. So we're going to go back up, hopefully in a few weeks, to the area where the Amazon driver was killed. And then if I can get the exact area, what part of the nature preserve where this guy was hunting, I want to take a day trip in there and look around and see what I can find. But those are the most recent things that have happened here in Missouri that we're wanting to investigate.
Very cool.
DA, like what you said, they didn't take samples of what was in the stomachs of the 2 dogs. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me to kill the 2 dogs and then not confirm it.
Right.
I mean, if they would have taken samples and found that, wait, there's no human DNA, no human flesh inside there, then they just killed the wrong creatures.
Yeah,
exactly. And they had to go in the house for the deputies to shoot the dogs. They said the dogs were acting aggressively. Well, yeah, if they don't know people that are in their yard, they're going to be aggressive. But they actually went inside the house and killed the dogs inside the house.
Little dangerous, don't you think?
I would agree.
I mean, I would have told the owner to put them away. They must have had a place to put them.
Well, the owners weren't there. They supposedly the owners were on vacation, and one of the neighbors was feeding the dogs for them. So unless these dogs were starving, I can't see that, they would have been so hungry they would attack and eat an Amazon driver. I just don't see that happening.
I didn't read that part, about the neighbors. So my question is, how did the dogs get out, attack the Amazon driver, go back in their house, shut the door?
It's never been said. It's never been said how they did it. Maybe there was a dog door. I don't know. But if you've got a dog door in your house big enough for a mastiff, it's big enough for a man to crawl through and rob your house.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, there was another case that came up, I think it's now 2 weeks old. A horse that was taken out of a barn in southern Ohio and ripped to shreds and everything. Now, I've read 3 different reports, and I was lucky enough to have somebody from Region 3, well, actually 3 people from Region 3 that live in Ohio that were able to go and speak with the police there. 3 different reports, and one of them says, and this is suspicious to me, that the horse was found, the body was found in water, and the head was found on the end of a pike rather, or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could tell me wild dogs did that?
No,
I don't think
no,
so.
no. I mean, Sasquatch and Dogman would not care to do that. That
Well,
is
Sasquatch might if it was a territorial thing.
well, but I wouldn't think it would put it on the end of a pike or anything, you know? That's more to me. I'm suspicious of that. That's more to me saying a human actually did that. Maybe a bear killed it because in southeastern Ohio, it touches the Pennsylvania border and there's black bear. Maybe a bear killed it originally. And I'm thinking maybe a human put that on the end of a stick, you know, on the end of a pike, just to screw with people, because people all the time want to down cryptozoology and make fun of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just suspicious. Plus, I'm suspicious of the fact that the farmer said, "Oh yeah, I have a camera out there." Well, if you have a camera out there and it was on the barn door, then how come you didn't see anything?
Right.
What are you
Yeah.
hiding? What's going on?
Yeah, there's more to that story than we're being told.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, definitely more. Definitely. Is that a pretty active area
Ohio,
as far as
yes.
Dogman activity?
Ohio is a very active area, both for Bigfoot and Dogman.
In
The whole
I
state
knew
of
it was for
Ohio.
Bigfoot. I wasn't sure about Dogman. But
Yeah, Jay, the whole state of Ohio was crazy. I mean,
it's
absolutely.
crazy. Yeah, a lot of funky stuff goes on there. A lot of funky stuff.
And the bottom of Ohio hits Pennsylvania. I
Yep.
think the top of it, what is it? It hits Michigan or something.
I think so.
They're getting lap over from everything.
Yeah, Appalachian Trail runs through there in certain parts, and yeah, definitely a weird place. Can be.
So DA, where have
Definitely.
you gone for this last book?
Well, this one is actually set in Russia, so obviously I haven't gone there.
That's
The
why I was
book's
Oh,
getting
very
at.
cool.
The book's called Death in Dyatlov Pass.
Yeah.
So I had to rely more on maps and local accounts of the area. So you know, I don't think, considering the current political climate, I'm going to be going to Russia anytime soon.
No,
Right.
I mentioned that because I was fortunate enough to read a little bit of his latest book over there, and I was like, he usually goes to the places. I wonder, you know.
That one's a little tough to go to.
I figure maybe
Yeah.
you and the wife hopped the plane to St. Petersburg and took a Yeti out to you know, to that area.
That's always, that case has always interested me
It is an interesting case.
extremely. There's so
generally-
many things, so many possibilities.
Mm.
It's very,
I-
very interesting.
I was talking to Jessica Jones about that the other night, and
Yeah,
it is really strange. I mean, there's a lot of nickel in the area, and having nickel in the area causes magnetism. Magnetism can affect humans.
Mhm.
Skinwalker Ranch, there's a lot of nickel there, and I watched a couple of their shows, and they were being affected by it. A couple of the guys were anyway. Plus, there's a lot of quartz in that area, and there's vibration coming from quartz, and there's, you know, other things that quartz causes. So, or my other idea is possibly it was a weapon that the Soviets were working on, and it was aimed in that area. Because why would these people who have done this before, they're seasoned veterans of hiking and doing this, why would they run out of a tent in the middle of the night and not have clothes
Right.
on?
Yeah.
It's like something was chasing them, it seems like.
yeah.
You know what else? I've been reading a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff that's not even online, just a lot of different paperwork and some redacted stuff that was translated over from Russian. And what they were showing in all the videos is that these seasoned hikers made an encampment with their tent on the side of a mountain. You don't do that. You don't do that. That's the coldest area where the ice forms the fastest and the most wind. You want to be down. I mean, I think that was a setup. That's my
Yeah.
feeling. To me, that was a setup that the Russians must have put it there just for the filming and tore the tent up a little bit, and the original site. You know, what do you think about that, DA? Is that a possibility? I mean, Anything's possible. I know.
Anything is possible, but it's one of those that there's just so many weird details about that case. It's when you think you know, okay, it could be this, then you find another detail and you're like, wait a minute, okay, that kind of throws that into question. It's just a really weird case, and it's hard to pin down any one thing. It's just so much weirdness going on.
Yeah. There's just nothing to go on. And, you know, why did this happen? And, you know, they want to believe, oh yeah, Yeti was over there attacking him, but I don't know. I mean, some of the people were found under, God, what is it, about 7 feet of snow?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff going on with those poor people.
Oh yeah, it was a rough condition. Well, one of them was even missing her tongue.
Yeah, that's pretty odd now.
Which is now that right there brings me back to the Yeti thing, because the Bigfoot, you know, types, Yeti, they're known to do that, pull the tongue to yaks and cattle and deer and whatnot. So that's an interesting point too. But like we were just saying, there's so many intricate details about that case that just every time you think you got part of it answered correctly, something else pops up.
Oh yeah, like the image that was on one of their cameras of the dark figure leaning out from behind a tree.
Yes.
You know, that one's mind-boggling. You know, could it be a Sasquatch? Yeah. Could it be somebody wearing dark clothes? Yeah.
Sure.
It's just not clear enough that you can tell, and it's one of those old cameras, so the resolution wasn't great anyway. But it's just a very compelling image when you look at that. You're like, could that be a Yeti following them? Well, yeah, it easily could be.
Sure.
You know what I don't get though? Why, when you're in a tent, you're all together in a tent, why did they disrobe? It could not have been that warm in that tent.
Well, they might have been trying to dry out their equipment. I know I've camped in some pretty nasty cold weather, and you've had to shed your cold weather gear to let it dry.
Yeah, but usually you put stuff with you so you can change into it. But they didn't do anything like that. And
well, they were probably traveling light, and considering how far they were going, you know, every piece of equipment had to be absolutely essential. So when you're going that far over land navigation, you've got to make sure you're traveling as lean as possible and still, you know, have, you know, supplies to live on and everything. So we'll probably never know what actually happened. I think the Russian government knows, but I don't think they're ever going to say.
Yeah, I think they know as well.
All governments like to keep their secrets, right? Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of my membership and your membership too there, DA. They're going to ask this. What's with the hat? The new hat?
I collect hats. And I was a fan of the series Breaking Bad. So I wanted a pork pie. So I got a pork pie hat. And of course, I've still got my Kolchak hat. You know, I wear that all the time too. So I just collect cool hats. So you never know what you're going to see me wearing next.
That's more of a winter hat. You have earmuffs inside of that, or
no? It's a leather hat though. Protect my bald noggin.
Yeah. Wow.
I like that. I like that.
Thank you.
So I know you always have more than one book in the oven. You got a couple other ones started up?
I've got the first book of my fantasy series. It's about 25,000 words in. This first one's called Heart of Iron. It's book 1 of the Blood and Redemption series. So it's about 25,000 words into that. I've also started the next sci-fi book. It's called Gunfighter's Destiny. So it's going to have a lot of action in it. It's about one of the characters named Duncan Kane. Of course, I've got my Codename Wild Hunt book started, and I've already started doing fleshing out notes for the next Lakeview Man book.
All right. Jay, can you check your system there? I just muted my mic, and I think something's coming over your thing again. Sounds better.
Better?
There it is.
I mean, I'm going to mute my mic right now. You guys talk.
Better?
About the same. I'm still hearing it.
Yeah, my mic, I just muted it, so I was dead, and it was still coming over. So something's going on.
Yeah, I muted mine, and when Nick talked, it still came over. So
still came over.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, so DA, tell us a little bit about your about the groups you got going on now.
Well, I've got the North American Dogman region too.
Yep.
Of course, I've got my fan page for Team DA, which is for my books, and it's also for the DAX Machina, my podcast.
Yep.
DAX Machina Nation, the group that supports my podcast. I've also got one called the Nightmare Hunter Project, which is similar to my research with the North American Dogman Project, but it doesn't just center on Dogman. With the Nightmare Hunter Project, we're concentrating on pretty much all cryptids across the board.
Very cool. What do you? Let me ask you a question, and I ask everybody this during our shows. What do you think these things are? Do you have any theories?
Well,
Dogman, Sasquatch.
I spent almost 20 years in law enforcement, so I tend to lean toward the physical evidence side. And I'm not saying that the other stuff that can't be. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying I haven't experienced it.
Right.
You know, there are people that talk about mind speak or cloaking or portals. I've never experienced anything like that, and I would never call anybody a liar if they said that they had experienced something like that. I just haven't on my end. So I tend to be a physical evidence guy. I think they're physical creatures. References to dog-headed creatures go back to the Roman and Greek empires. The cynocephalus, the dog-headed soldiers that both the Romans and the Greeks fought in northern Africa and parts of India. So you know, it's not the creatures with the head of a dog is not anything new. The Catholic Saint Christopher is depicted as the dog-headed saint. So Dogman, the term Dogman is relatively new. Creatures that appeared have been called werewolves or lycanthropes, or there's a lot of the cynocephali. There's references to creatures with the head of a dog going way back to antiquity. Marco Polo and Christopher Columbus both mentioned seeing dog-headed creatures on their journeys. So creatures like that are not new, but the term Dogman is more recent. So I firmly believe these things are flesh and blood creatures, and I think they've been here for a very long time.
Okay. Yeah, when I ask that question, we hear a lot of different things. So I was just curious.
But again, what I tell people on our show all the time is that there are no experts in this field. Anybody that claims they're an expert in this field is trying to sell you something. I'm not an expert. I'm basing my opinion on my personal firsthand experience. I could be wrong. It could be anybody's guess. So if anybody's got their own theory, it's just as good as anything I've come up with.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Yeah. Definitely no experts. That's for sure. That's for sure. So DA, how did you, when you were a little kid, did you find yourself drawn towards it before that experience in Missouri when your deer was taken?
It's something I've been fascinated since I first heard about it. I mean, I grew up, here in, my mother was a big fan of horror stories, and from the time I was old enough to set up, I grew up listening to, like, when we go camping, listening to campfire stories of the boogeyman or the wild man of the woods, the Momo the monster.
Yeah.
The Bigfoot sightings up near Louisiana, Missouri back in 1972. So when I was old enough to hear stories, I was hearing stories about Momo the monster. So some of my earliest memories of hearing campfire stories were of creatures like that. So my fascination for it has been, as long as I can remember.
Gotcha.
Jay, can you switch to headphones?
Sure.
Let's see if that helps out, because I've been on mute for a while here. I'm sorry, DA. Just hang in there for a second. We were having technical difficulties all day.
Yeah, this whole ordeal with having to switch. Got my computer fixed today, and now it seems like issue after issue. Can you hear me better?
Yeah, hear you fine.
I can hear you good, and I don't hear that background noise anymore.
Okay, yeah.
So that's a good thing. So you'll have to get all that checked out.
Yeah, we'll have to have a meeting this week, straighten and see if we can straighten everything out before next Sunday. So DA, you have any you had any interesting guests on lately, or taken any reports? Any reports from anyone lately? Anything interesting aside from what you've already mentioned?
Well, the ones that happened here in Missouri recently, with the Amazon driver and the missing hunter
Yeah.
are the most recent ones here. But we get stories all the time. I mean, Nick, how many reports do you get sent to you every week?
It went up from 5 a week, and now it's well over 30 a week.
Yeah.
So it's like I can't keep up with it because you have to interview the people, and
Yeah.
I want to see them on the video cam at least, or even at least I want to talk to them on the phone. I mean, they'll send a Facebook message. I'll ask them if we can talk, if we can video, and if they're close enough. By close enough, I mean within 5 hours, I'll travel out to them. But
Sure.
yeah, it's way up there, and
It is.
I've been asked on some shows. I don't know, DA, if you've been asked this question, but I've been asked why the uptick in Dogman and Sasquatch sightings. And the only thing I could think of is all the building that's going on. I know in New Jersey, I've had the uptick has been 6 times over, what we used to have. And
I
in
think a lot
Pennsylvania,
of it,
it's crazy, but they're building a lot of townhouses. And the more of the forest area that they're taking away, the more they're coming out and the more they're being spotted.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of it also has to do with the fact that cryptids have become more mainstream than they were 10 years ago. There's a
Yeah.
lot of shows on about different types of cryptids. There's a lot of documentaries out now that people are seeing that they never would have seen before.
Yeah.
So I think the climate has changed where people are feeling more comfortable coming forward. A
Mhm.
lot less ridicule than there used to be. Yeah, of course, you're still going to get certain circles of people that are going to call you crazy, but shows like this and shows like mine, or shows like the Dixie Cryptid podcast, or any the dozen Josh Turner's Paranormal Roundtable.
Yeah.
There are lots of formats where people can come forward and tell their stories and not
Sure.
be judged for their stories. So I think that's really helped a lot too. And people that are researching this, like myself and Nick, we've got our email addresses out there on the NADP website. We mention it on podcasts. So we made ourselves a lot more easy, a lot more accessible, so people can give these stories. So I think that has a lot to do with why we're getting more too, is because people now know they have an avenue where they can report these.
Sure. You think maybe the awareness that people now have?
I think that's to a large extent as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reporting has gone up on the Sasquatch end. I can tell you that much. Not only the Dogman, but even the Sasquatch. And I think a lot of it has to do with what you were saying, D.A. I think it's become more mainstream. Maybe people aren't as weary to tell their stories,
Right.
But there's always going to be that ridicule, but I think people are more comfortable with it, as you said. And I totally agree with what both of you just said about the more of their land we infringe on, the more sightings there's going to be of both.
Oh, you know what I wanted to mention the DA, Jay, is that fellow that we were listening to a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yes.
From California.
Yes.
This guy works at an airport in California. Now, I don't know if you got wind of this yourself, but he's a security guy, and he works with other security guards at an airport, and he's claiming 8-foot, 12-foot dogmen running in packs of 50 and 60 around the airport area. And I'm saying, oh God, shades of Survivor of LBL. We got another one. So what I did, and Jay did the same thing, is I recorded him. And when I got to work, because I don't have access to this kind of equipment myself, when I got to work, I ran it through our voice analyzer. And I'm not an expert on it, but I had the expert there, the technician, run it. And this guy was lying through his teeth like every other sentence. And who was it that brought it to us? Was it Daryl?
Yes.
Yeah, poor Daryl. I mean, he just, the guy sucked him in on this thing, and and we're listening to him on the phone, and I'm going, this is a 12-foot dog, man? I don't think so.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that I kind of harp on it, and I don't ever comment on the pictures on Facebook. I just ignore them. But there's so many red circle photos out there that are pictures of nothing but bushes and pareidolia. People
Yes.
post those, and I could go out in my backyard right now and take a picture of the bush at the back of my yard and put a couple red circles on it, post it on a website, and there'd be 20 people swear there's 2 dogs.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
And I think that does more harm to the field than it does good. Yeah, more people are reporting stuff, but unfortunately, a big chunk of it is just pareidolia.
Yeah, I agree. And if we have a saying, on the Sasquatch side of things, if you got to circle it, you ain't got squatch.
But then a lot of these guys will get downright angry and nasty with you. You say, I don't see anything. So that's why I don't comment on the pictures anymore.
Right.
But just because you circle the bush doesn't mean there's a dog man in it.
No.
They want to see it so bad, so bad.
Well, the thing is some people genuinely think they see something, and that's and it's just pareidolia, and that's one thing. But there are other people that are deliberately posting pictures with absolutely nothing in it, and I think that there are some people out there that are deliberately trying to make the field look ridiculous. Just to discredit the field.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they think it's a joke, and and a lot of other people want their 15 minutes of fame, like that guy from California.
Right.
Or maybe he can make some money off of it. So
hoaxers make me just absolutely livid because, there's even with the advent of Photoshop and Video Shop, it is so easy to fake an image anymore.
Yes.
And without the original image to look at, you can't tell if it's been manipulated, because one of the processes you use with Photoshop is to look for layers to see if the image has been layered in. And that's a great way to tell if the image is fake. But without the original image, it's very difficult to do that. You've basically got to go through the frame pixel by pixel and look for differences in shadows and things like that. But it's so easy for people to fake images with Photoshop and Video Shop. I don't think any pictures or videos are going to be considered proof anymore because they're so easy to fake.
Yeah.
I get several dozen pictures sent to me every month. And luckily I have a program. It's an onion program. Peels back all the layers of the onion. And that's what I use on some of these pictures. And unfortunately, almost 100% of the time, been peeling back the pictures and it shows that it was Photoshopped. So
sure.
That's why I also don't make a comment most of the time, on things that are posted out there. I just post information. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here.
I try to discourage red circle photos on my pages, but sometimes they still pop up.
Yeah.
People will slide them in there in a comment. That's how they'll get it in, instead of allowing the admin to okay it or not okay it, they'll just slide it in on a comment and stick the picture in.
And edit the photo and circle it out. Yeah.
I know I'm lucky to have a couple of Pitbull admins who will really, read everything and look at everything along with myself, and we're able to catch it most of the time. So.
Yeah, they're definitely they definitely do a good job. That's for sure. And I'm fortunate enough to have some good admin like yourself, Nick, on my group page as well.
Yeah, I've been checking your page out quite a bit, and I've refused a few things that were totally ridiculous. I know I'm an admin on DA's site.
Yep.
He's a little bit more lenient than I am, but I do try to weed out the bad stuff, because like he just said, these people just make cryptozoology look even worse than it is. It's just like, we don't need people that want to sensationalize things. We want to do things for real.
It's the last thing we need.
That's why you rarely see me post photos.
Yeah,
I've got to legitimately think something's in that photo before I'll post it. I don't just post a picture of a bush that I've blown up so to the point where you start to see shapes in the leaves. I don't post any of those because I think it's really doing a disservice to the field.
Sure. But I don't post any evidence anymore either. Very, very rarely. Very rarely. Like you said, unless if I know something is there, I'll post it. But aside from that, no.
There was a guy who claimed I wasn't a legitimate researcher because I don't post photos. I'm like, I don't post photos with red circles. I just don't see the point. There's nothing there. No amount of red circles is going to change the fact that there's nothing there. Why would I post that? Why would I waste people's time with that?
Right.
Right.
And bring up their hopes and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if I go someplace and shoot a video, I'll put the whole video up on my YouTube page. And once
Yes.
in a while, someone will say, "Hey, I think I saw something at whatever time frame," and we'll go back and look at it. But a couple of times it's just been eye shine and stuff like that, and which is pretty much inconclusive. But I'll just post the video in its entirety. I mean, our LBL trip when Nick and I made, I shot a bunch of videos while we were there, and we spliced them into one big video and posted it. And it's all there, all unedited photos of images of video for anybody to take a look at. And if somebody sees something, feel free to point it out. I'd love to hear it.
Sure. Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, Jay, I think we're at the end of the time.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, I think we are.
And we
DA,
give DA a chance to, put anything out there that he needs to put out, for like location, people can contact you, any of your upcoming projects, where they can find your books.
Yeah, I definitely do that. You can find all of my books at DARoberts.net. You can find links to my podcast from there. My podcast is on YouTube, and you'll find it on Facebook as well. The podcast is called DAX Machina. I've got a couple of really awesome co-hosts, Anthony Canatella. Of course, we've got Doc, Kerry Pocket Doc Davis, Robbie Rains, and Steve Von Rodas when he actually gets to have a weekend off. He's been working a lot lately. We've got a good group of guys on there. We're always looking for new evidence and new things to talk about. And it's a pretty interesting show. If you guys go over to YouTube, youtube.com/DAX Machina podcast or D.A Roberts author, either one, you'll find it both ways. Go to my website, DARoberts.net. I've got a new book about to come out. It's called Codename Wild Hunt, Death and Dyatlov Pass. It should be out in the next few weeks.
Cool.
Looking forward to getting that one out. And I've got currently 27 books in print, a lot of them about cryptids. I have a sci-fi series. I also have a zombie series. I hope you guys can check those out. And you can find me on any of my social media at D.A Roberts Author. I simplified it by on every social media. It's just at D.A Roberts Author. That's the easiest way to find it.
And you folks can also find him on Facebook, North American Dogman Project Region 2. You can send him a Facebook Messenger message. And I just wanted to mention that if you can't find a way to get his books on his .net address, I picked a lot of them up on Amazon.
They're all available on Amazon in Kindle, in paperback, and a lot of them are out in audio, and we're working on more.
I try to buy them, books, D.A Roberts books, so I can get them autographed. As you can see here, I had him autograph it for me. So I've got a lot of the paperbacks, pretty good paperbacks. They got like a rubberized cover on them. I really like that. I appreciate that when they do it like that.
Yeah, I'm can't wait to read your new one there, the Dyatlov Pass one. That's I'm really looking forward to checking that out.
Oh yeah, I'm going to tell you, I got a preview of it, and it's excellent. Yeah, this one's over 300 pages. This one here, Uncanny Valley, and I'm going to tell you, been up many a night reading them. So people, I'm not joking. It's excellent entertainment.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
And this man, DA, he's got some, he's full of knowledge, guys. So, listen to it when you're reading this stuff, it's, you're getting legitimate stuff there. So, yeah, DA, we just want to thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much. Excellent.
And you can reach, if you want to report a sighting, you reach Nick and I both on Facebook Messenger. You can reach me on my email on the trail, .jf@gmail.com, or like I just said, you're on a messenger. Nick, that's convenient for you and your messenger.
Yeah, basically Facebook Messenger is the most convenient way. And that's where I get a lot of my stuff.
Awesome. All right. Well, anyway, guys, this has been episode 2 of season 5 on the trail and searching living legends. We will be back next week with another phenomenal guest. Just want to say one more thank you to DA, and we'll see you next week.
DA.
Have a good night, everybody. And guys, stay on for a minute if you could.
Good night now.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.